Hi there, welcome to Talk to Me Tuesday on a Tuesday from 3 to 4. I'm your host, Madi B, and today we're doing a very special topic. The topic today is going to be USC sexual assault. We're opening up the lines of communications for any questions that we may have, you guys may have on USC sexual assault, or even sexual abuse, or even sexual violence or misconduct, anywhere, any place of business as well. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing the panel, which is Attorney Darren A. Miller.
Good afternoon.
As well as therapist Claudette Clay.
Hello.
So they're here to speak about more on the legal side as well as the therapy, psychotherapist side, any questions that you guys may have as far as the effects that it might have on an individual on the mental side. So I want to go ahead and open up the floor to Miss Claudette Clay on tell the viewers a little bit about yourself so they can get to know you, how long you've been in practice, and where did you go to school, stuff like that.
Okay. I'm Claudette Clay. I'm a licensed professional counselor, supervisor in the state of Texas. I'm also in private practice. My practice is Mending Lives Counseling Associates here in Houston. And I'm also the clinical director for Admore Behavioral Therapy, and my role there is to sort of assist the therapist in working with the clients for the therapy group. I have a master's degree of counseling from the University of Houston in Victoria, and I've been in practice for about 16 years, and it's been a wonderful practice and growing and thriving.
Yeah, well, it's such a pleasure to have you here. 16 years, huh?
Yes.
Wow, 16 is a lucky number
Long
today.
time.
Yeah. So we will put the information below. The Admore Behavioral Therapy. You guys will see the address as well as a phone number. If you guys have any questions, you guys can get in contact with Miss Claudette Clay directly. I'm going to turn it over to Attorney Darren A. Miller. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Some of the viewers may already know, but those that we have today that are a little bit new to the show, tell them a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Attorney Darren Miller here, of course. Been practicing for 19 years. Graduate Texas A&M University. I have an MBA from University of St. Thomas. I used to do a lot of mediation work before getting involved in personal injury, and very fortunate to be able to work on some of the bigger cases now, the MGM shooting case, BP case, and of course, what we're here to talk about right now, the USC case.
Yeah, so you just mentioned right now that some of the big cases, of course you do other stuff, personal injury, stuff like that, but let's talk a little bit about this case in particular, which you just said is one of our big cases. So talk a little bit about just the general idea of USC sexual assault. What is some of the experience and people you've actually been talking to on the phone?
You know, we started talking about this issue a couple of months ago. We were contacted by a young lady out of California letting us know, hey, I went to school in USC and kind of relating what she was going through. And it was unbelievable that someone going to school looking for the guidance and professionalism, and especially the prestigious school like the University of Southern California, would have to be subjected to an unbelievable amount of issues that I'm sure we're going to get into in just a while. And when we found out about these things, and it wasn't just one or two people, it was hundreds, if not thousands of people that this was going on, we had to get involved. We stepped it up. We met with some of the attorneys we had here. Obviously, distance was an issue, and we had to decide kind of how we wanted to do this. But this issue is so important, so crucial, that something has to be done. And I'm not just talking about at the university level or at USC. I'm talking about pervasive changes throughout how these things are dealt with. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about what I'm talking about, but not only as an attorney, as a responsible citizen, but as a father. I can't just sit around and do nothing when young ladies get violated in the way that they are and not do something to fix the system.
Yeah, and we have a very strong panel today. made up of 2 women, as well as a father here that's also the pleasure of being an attorney as well. I know you feel compelled to make a difference out there and to help all those out there that have had some type of injury or personal assault, sexual assault in this case. So we will talk a little bit more about the details, those that we're able to discuss, as well as the movements that have been going on nationwide. I know you mentioned your office, D. Miller & Associates, is here in Houston, Texas. Does that limit you from helping California and or any other state?
Not at all. Not at all. Just on a very general sense, we have over 7,000 clients, not just through this case, but many other cases that we have. And that does not limit us. We associate with local firms. We handle things on the federal level. There's many different ways that we handle that situation. Right now, in this particular case, we have about 62 clients in this case, most of them out on the West Coast. We're pretty good at speaking with them very often. We've got a big group of people that we work with here at the firm. We're working also with Michael Pierce's law firm also. Also, we've got local counsel in Orange County there that's handling some of the local filings and things for us there. So that does not affect our situation, our ability to handle cases in California or anywhere else in the country.
So we are in good hands nationwide. D. Miller & Associates is able to help, as well as just recently, you guys went to California. We have an attorney right now there in California now as we speak. Before a week ago, we were in California again, probably like 3 weeks ago. So flight isn't very difficult for us.
Not at all. Not at all. Especially when an issue as important as what we're talking about, that's not going to be a factor for us at all.
Yeah, so we are available. And I do want to turn that same question over to Ms. Claudette Clay. Is that something, being in Houston, that it limits you, or do you have any type of individuals that can also help in a different state, whether it's California or if there's any other issues in any other states?
Well, I know Admore is right now able to perhaps offer, I don't know the exact details, but some phone therapies.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so there is some options, even though we're in Houston, Texas right now, there is some options for you guys that are watching right now. If you guys need any of these higher professionals that are today's panel, if you need to speak to them, you're able to, a phone call away. I know the attorneys are in California. If you guys prefer to see the attorneys, they would be in California. We have local counsel in Orange County. So I'm going to go ahead and open up those lines of communication for you guys, asking any questions in specific USC sexual assault, or if you guys have any question on any type of situation that has to do with sexual assault, sexual abuse, violence, or sexual misconduct. So I want to open up the lines of communication, a little bit of a deeper topic. It is a sensitive topic, but we are here to help. And after the show, we can get you on the line to talk a little bit more in depth about your matter, because I know these are very private and sensitive matters that we need to be respectful, especially here on air. So,
and if I could,
absolutely.
What I'd like to just very quickly, so people can kind of have a better understanding as to what we're doing or what happened at USC. Students there, young ladies, of course, would go to the gynecologist for checkups, for appointments, to ask general questions. And again, this was just very generally speaking, what would happen is Dr. Tyndall would violate them. Okay, and I'm not saying that this would happen to everybody that he saw, but the people that we've talked to, the information that we've gathered, that he would do things that, without any question, crossed ethical, medical, and all types of other lines. And that's what we're the most upset about, is the fact that this went on for a very long time. And we're talking about it, he was there for a period of more than 20 plus years. That in some situations that the spotters there that were aware of some of these instances were so appalled at what was going on, they would leave the room. They wouldn't be in the same room with him. And the thing that made me the most upset, okay, is the fact that every once in a while, you're going to have a bad apple of sorts. You're going to have someone who's going to cross those lines with regards to doing things that they shouldn't do, okay? And had the university stepped up and did what they were supposed to do, which is to protect those students, to inform those students, to advise those students of what their other options were, we would not be sitting here talking to you about how terrible this situation was for such a long period of time.
And I know that's great that you kind of gave a general idea of what the USC sexual assault case is about. There's just a lot that I hear from that is wrong. Not only it sounds like the abuse of power of a doctor, Dr. George Tyndall, also the institution, which is a private college of USC, is another way there. And then having females, because we have to get our monthly exams or yearly exams, in this vulnerable stage where you're already uncomfortable, you already don't want to be there, you go in and then someone is abusing that. And someone is making comments. Someone is touching inappropriately. So that is
taking pictures. I mean, it's just the ethical lines here that were crossed here on so many different occasions. It's awful. It's more than offensive. And speaking to some of these young ladies, it has affected them, whether it happened a few years ago or 20 years ago. These women are still affected by this, and it's unbelievable to hear some of their stories.
Yes, and I know we have D. Miller and Associates, as well as Admore Behavioral Therapy, as well as Pearson Scribonics office, as well as our co-counsel in California. All of us are behind this movement to make a difference. So if you guys that are watching, if you guys can relate, we would love to hear any questions that you guys may have. If you guys just support, we would also love for you guys to share this. The more you share it, the more people get to see that this is not okay. It's not normal. And we might be able to help other lives as well. So this is a very sensitive topic. We'll probably go into a little bit more detail as we are able to speak a little bit more about that. I do want to go ahead and go into the first question that I have. This individual would like not to be named, so I do have to respect that. He or she is saying, I am too scared to come forward. Is there any way for me to stay anonymous and file a claim?
Absolutely. We have, in the situation, of course, that we're dealing with in California, probably more than half of our clients are doing this anonymously. You've got some clients, for example, that are executives, that are CEOs of certain companies that still have relationships with the university. And some of them, after 15 years, I spoke with a young lady actually last week who had graduated more than 15 years ago, and she still hasn't told her husband as to what's going on because they feel like they're embarrassed by the situation, like they did something wrong by not disclosing it. They should have known more what to do in that particular situation. So absolutely, we can help them, we can assist them. What we're doing with those particular clients to respect their privacy is filing what's called Jane Doe petitions, whereas we hide and protect their identities, yet we can still move forward with asking the right questions and pursuing justice for them on an individual basis.
So there is a way that you can be anonymous, and that goes any state. Is that correct?
Well, I'm talking specifically to California. I'm sure there's different states. It's kind of a statewide type of a situation, but I'm sure that can be negotiated depending on where you are and what the situation is. So
depending on the state, the attorneys will advise you on what you are able to do in the state. That was more so geared towards California.
Yes.
You are able to be anonymous, and we'll follow up to see where this person is so that we can help a little bit more. I'm going to address the same question to Ms. Clay. Is that something, if they do file a claim, seek therapy, and seek your assistance, is that something that they're able to stay anonymous?
Oh, absolutely. That's part of HIPAA. As a licensed professional counselor, we under the HIPAA guidelines, and so we work very hard as therapists to maintain the confidentiality of a client. And a client that is fearful should not fear a psychotherapist. And of course, we know in every profession, just like this was a doctor that you spoke of, there may be some counselors out there that might not be the best. So you have to interview the counselor.
Right.
It seems like now you may have to interview your doctors
Right.
in order to know what you're getting into.
Yeah, and I know Mr. Miller, Attorney Darren Miller, just mentioned that some of the situations, the clients haven't even told their loved ones, whether it's a husband or a family member. Is that a normal behavior with someone that has suffered from like a sexual assault or sexual abuse?
I don't want to say normal, but it is in the realm of possibility of not sharing. They may not have shared with intimate family member like a mom or husband, but they may have shared with someone, maybe a friend. But yes, holding back out of fear, the fact that you might lose friendships, people may look at you differently because this has happened, causes people not to want to share because they may feel judged, that there was something that they did. And I want to assure you that there is nothing that you did. You're a victim in this situation. And so if that helps to alleviate your fear of sharing, know that you are a victim and you need to speak up and come forward.
Doctor, what I see is a very interesting dynamic in speaking with a lot of these clients. Half of their questions, at least when you speak with them initially, deals with, okay, how can I protect my identity? How can I want to be involved, but I'm worried about what things that might be coming out. What I find it kind of interesting is after we kind of lay out our strategy with regards to what we intend to do and how we want to put certain people underneath the prison, so to speak, people that remain nameless. After you start letting them know that you're going to be their champion and that you're going to help them and assist them, I find it interesting that while some of them do want to continue to protect themselves, others, they want to speak out. They feel empowered. But now, I've held this in for too long. I want to get this out. I want to help other young ladies. And so I love that part of the process where I can help them do what needs to happen to make them feel better about themselves and do something so that this never happens to anybody else.
Absolutely. I would like to share, I had an experience with a 10-year-old, and her mother brought her for counseling, and she cried the first few sessions. She wouldn't talk, she just cried. So the whole sessions to get her to talk was to make her feel that it was okay to talk, that she was in a safe place. And I just worked with her to open up gradually. But once she opened up, she was able to embrace the therapeutic things that I had to offer. So during her time of therapy with me, she had another encounter with a family member. And because of our being empowered, like you said, through therapy, she was able to report the incident.
Wow.
And of course, when I saw her, I gave her the highest praise. But the empowering sense allowed her to not go forth as a victim anymore, but take up her power and address what was happening.
Awesome.
And that's very awesome to hear how you're empowering either women or men, because this could be both,
Yes.
Empowering and for them to take a stand, whichever platform it is, and make a difference. There might be young ladies out there, as I know there's women that are not afraid and there's women that are afraid. There's men that are not afraid and men that are afraid. You might motivate those that are very quiet inside and want to speak out there for their story to make a difference in others. And we're talking every age group here. We're talking from kids, in this specific, we're talking college age, which is right after 18 plus. And we're talking as old as, I'm not sure, the sky's the limit because some of these women have held it in.
Right. Some of them are older, 50, 52, 53 years old, that have went back, were in school in 91, and, it's just interesting. You see how you listen to their credentials and how successful they are and some of the things that they've achieved. But then when you start talking about, okay, well, what happened when you were in school? they revert back to almost childlike behavior because of what he paralyzed them at a time when they were at their most vulnerable.
Yeah, and if you guys have a situation or know of anyone, I definitely want to encourage you guys to give us a call. We do have the hired professionals here as well as attorneys that can speak to you, or if you can feel comfortable speaking to Ms. Claudette Clay as well. Any way we can help to get your voice out there is what we want to do.
May I interject?
Absolutely, yeah.
If someone comes to you and wants to share, if you will just listen and not make judgments. Sometimes when people say a little something, like, well, what were you doing? It's a judgmental kind of comment, and they may shut down. So if you ever encounter someone who has something to share along this topic, just be open to listen without judgment.
That's a great suggestion. I know we're kind of reaching out to you guys as well as a helping hand, because you never know, you might be the friend that they're speaking to, or you might be the sister or the brother or the husband or the father that they speak to. So that is a good advice. That's for all of us, even those that are speaking. So I want to go ahead and move on. This is Rebecca that's asking the question. Rebecca's asking or saying, my friend and I are in summer school, and she told me she was a victim of sexual assault 3 years ago by a friend who claims he was drunk. Do I talk to her about it? This is kind of, I think, definitely, thank you, Rebecca, for the question, what we just mentioned. This could go for both of you guys, if you want to answer it, but I'll repeat it one more time. My friend and I are in summer school, and she told me she was a victim of sexual assault 3 years ago by a friend who claims he was drunk. Do I talk to her about it?
I would say you allow her to talk to you, but if it's areas of what she's sharing that you're not comfortable with, I would say that you want to encourage her to seek help from a professional.
Absolutely.
Because it could be something that you might inadvertently say that might cause her to withdraw or cause her to have some particular psychological feelings about guilt or not being able to trust. So if it's an area that she begins to sharing on, you just listen, and then you say, have you sought help? Do you know of some places maybe I can help you find someone that you can talk to?
Yes, that's some good advice. And I want to also, based on what Ms. Clay was saying, as well as what Rebecca's saying, these are some situations that we've heard that people did not, or women did not want to speak to their friends, and instead they go to the Dr. Tyndall at USC to speak. And that's where the opportunity was to do any type of sexual assault behavior, misconduct. So I know that's going to probably be tough for some people that are like, well, I went to go seek help, and that this is a reflection of what I got.
Yeah, it's one of the most awful things. One of our clients, and she's been on TV talking about this, so I don't feel terrible sharing this story. One of our clients was raped. She was a victim of a sexual assault, and she goes to Dr. Tyndall, seeking help, assistance with regards to addressing this particular issue at one of the most prestigious schools in the country. And what does he do? Takes a total advantage of the situation and assaults her yet again. I mean, how does that happen? How is it allowed to happen? How is it the university is aware of such things and does nothing to protect its students? That's the type of institutional change that we have to do something against and for, and we are committed to fix these things, to bring them to light, so that young ladies, much like our clients and some of the others, tell their stories so that issues like this do not become as rampant as, unfortunately, we're going to see. I'm telling you this. We've seen these issues happen at Michigan State with Dr. Nasser, with Penn State, Ohio State. USC is not going to be the last school. It's not. And until we stand up and tell these young ladies, hey, it is okay. You did nothing wrong. It was not your fault what happened there. And the universities have to change their conduct. Their process, instead of, okay, let's take care of the victim. Let's figure out what happened here. Let's fix this. Well, what is their typical response? Let's cover this up. It didn't happen. You did something wrong. You're to blame. Well, that's garbage. And we've got to fix that. And this is the best way to do it, by bringing it to light, bringing it to the attention of students, filing these lawsuits, and making the universities accountable for the actions of their agents.
And I love to hear the passion in your voice, because that tells me you are for the institutional change, and not just for this institution, but more so a nationwide institutional change.
I cannot be more serious about this, Marty. I am lucky enough to have 4 children. 2 of them are young ladies, a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old. What kind of lawyer would I be if I knew that this was going on and I don't step right in to say, no more, this has to stop? I am going to do everything I can, as well as Andy and the rest of the team, to protect not only my children, but everyone else's children throughout this country, to stop this type of activity. Because it's all about money. It's all about protecting the system. It's all about keeping these traditional systems in place. And that just cannot happen anymore. Thank God for Me Too. Thank God for these strong women that are standing up. Thank God for the people that are bringing pressure to bear to change these things. And I am proud to be a part of that process.
Yeah, and it's all of you guys that have stepped up and just been a voice, that have allowed the attorneys also to go speak in behalf of yourself and state your story as well. I want to talk a little bit about these movements that have been going on nationwide. You guys maybe have heard of it, maybe not, but they're hashtags, and it's a Me Too movement, a Time's Up movement, a Not You Too movement. They're movements against sexual harassment and assault. They're hashtags that are spread throughout social media, any platform, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff, to demonstrate awareness of this, especially in the workplace and the higher ranks professionals and abusing their power. There's even walks of the Me Too movement. You've seen it on TV. This is something very, very serious that we need to make a change, an institutional change, nationwide change. I know you also mentioned that one of our clients was on TV. So I'm going to have you speak on it before I go into that. But last week we were in California to make this break of a story, and this break to create awareness, to have more people come forward, to have more people stand strong, holding hands as a sisterhood, to make a voice and create a voice. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that movement that we did in California?
Sure. Again, as I mentioned, we got involved in this a couple of months ago, and we signed up a person here, a person there. And then after a while, when it started to get over 20 or 30 people, you start to see the similarities in the stories and the fact that this is going over and over again. And unless these women are just like, okay, let's get together and make up and concoct the story, which of course they're not, you can tell there's something going on that's a problem in the university. So myself, along with Andy Rubenstein, Ramesh, and the rest of the team, we came up with this, what we call our D-Day strategy. And what we meant by that was when we got 50 clients together, we said we got contacted some kind of way. Good Morning America contacted us. We were lucky enough to get that scheduled. We found out when that was going to be. That was going to be on July the 23rd. On July the 23rd, we decided, okay, we're going to build everything around that day. And so we were on Good Morning America that day. We had a press conference in LA to announce what was going on. That was very successful. Nightline picked up the story. We were on Nightline that day also. And I think the most important thing that we did that day was we filed the actual lawsuit. So it was kind of a 4-pronged assault. It got so much attention. It went viral. It went crazy. And ever since then, the stories have been out there. People have been aware. And this is just, again, something that the university, no Dr. Tyndall, can run from.
And I want to talk a lot about what you just mentioned. So if you guys want to see exactly what Attorney Darren Miller is talking about, you can go on our Facebook page, You'll see the Good Morning America, the Nightline. There's a lot of articles out there, just to name a few: New York Times, LA Times, Associated Press, CNN, Inside Edition, Telemundo, Univision, stuff like that. I'm just naming a few. There's several out there that you guys can just look up, and we were a part of that movement, and that's just the beginning.
Just the beginning.
That's just the beginning. So I did want to touch on that. I know you mentioned we did a filing. Do you want to mention a little bit more of that number, how many we filed in California?
We filed a lawsuit initially with at the time about 51 clients. We've signed many more since then that have contacted us, kind of letting us know that they've been affected the same way. And that's exactly what we were trying to accomplish with regards to the fact that there's been so many people that have called and asked different questions, and this happened to my cousin, what should I do? And just making people aware, letting them know, hey, this was not your fault. So we accomplished a good portion of our goal, letting people know what the situation was and what we're doing to address it and fix it. And hopefully they're going to continue to seek help, move forward, and let other people know it's okay. You did nothing wrong. Don't blame yourself for what happened.
So you mentioned you filed in California 51 individual women or men, but there'll be probably potentially more or another wave here in the future if there's more?
Yes, absolutely. Because what I am finding out is that so many young ladies, they don't want to deal with this. This is just it's a terrible incident in the past. And, it's something that they're having problems dealing with. And so, yes, my feeling is that hundreds more of these women are going to come forward and step forward and see, when they see other women talking about it and be confident about it and proud, we know that that's probably going to happen. There's going to be additional ways of people coming out.
And I do want to assure you watching that we did have 4 to 5 clients out in California speaking about this, and they were okay being named and being out in the forefront. So if you guys have a chance to look at that, to give you a sense of ability to speak to someone, then please make sure you watch that video as well. I know we have a lot of individuals. I keep saying it's not just women, it's women and men. I know just being a woman and just having to be in that position, if something were to happen, it's very difficult. It's very private to speak about. And this is, it's very private. It's very intimate to be with a doctor. You go to a gynecologist and these things happen. We understand that it's difficult to speak about. But we are here to listen to your story, and you hear the passion of the attorney's voice. So,
Marty, I have a question for you. I'd like to ask you. So you were there in California,
yes,
when the ladies were being interviewed, and you were hearing the stories. How did you feel when you were hearing and listening to what the women were saying?
Man, it was crazy. I felt the disgust. I had to think back, because based on my age, and when I first got my exam, I'm like, oh my gosh, did I ever experience anything like that? You're never really told as a woman, this is what the process should look like. This is who should be in the room. This is what it's going to feel like. You have to kind of go through it. So I could relate with these ladies. It was very disgusting to hear some of the comments that were made by the doctor, as if he's still not doing anything wrong. Some of their stories are very moving, very sad. There was a point in time, one story that it had the host, Juju Chang from Nightline, as well as myself, as well as the attorney. We were in tears, and we've heard the story several times, but just the emotion behind it. It's very easy to relate being a woman, because we all experience that, and I just cannot even imagine just the feeling of you can't get out, and it's just you and this person, and a person that you trust, and they're in your intimate, private space, So it is, you probably hear the passion in my voice too, because it's very moving to hear that even happens. It's very sad, one of our clients was in college when one of our clients was not even born. That was, to me, just like, I still replay that, because had the institution done something about it, we could save young ladies that are in elementary school right now that are not even born, and that you don't even foresee that. So to me, it was very moving. I feel very strongly about that. It's a huge movement that I stand up for all these ladies, and I'm super passionate as well, but I'm passionate on a different level because I cannot even imagine.
Well, as a therapist, I've encountered a number of adults in my 16 years of practice that I was the first person that they shared with. I had a gentleman, I'm not going to say what my age is, but he's probably older than everybody in the room. But I had a gentleman as a client, and he was older than I was, and I was in my late 50s at the time. And I was the first person that he had shared with, and it was powerful, and I could see him changing as a result of lifting that burden. He had lived his whole life from 6 years old when the abuse occurred until that time that he shared. His life had been a train wreck. But after he shared, it was like he shed the shame, the guilt. So it really, you don't want to keep anything like this that has happened. You want to share. Some of my other adult clients, when I would ask them, did you ever tell? They would say, again, I was afraid, or I wouldn't be believed.
Right.
A lot of times I wouldn't be believed, especially if it happened when they were children. So it's important to listen, to validate, and encourage people to seek professional help.
And I know that is a common question, because when we were in California, the reporters would ask, why didn't whoever the young lady was report this sooner? You just mentioned right now, there's a lot of emotions going through to where they can't. It's not that they maybe not have the ability to, and you just spoke about that in a completely different experience on a client. Go ahead.
And that's the thing that's the most frustrating with this whole situation, is that the university had hundreds of complaints from these young ladies, hundreds of them, and they did nothing about it until just a couple of years ago. That's just unbelievable to me.
So it's invalidating their experience.
Exactly. And what does that do with a predator? Okay, well, I guess I can keep doing it. I guess it's okay. Okay, well, keep them coming. It's unbelievable.
And what's kind of a little, I'm just kind of going to switch a question. This is going to be a very deep question, but when you're getting your kids ready to go to college, no one really knew about this USC scandal of sexual assault because it was almost 30 years. So as new kids were enrolling, they never knew about this. They never knew because it wasn't in the forefront. And it's almost like, as a parent, you're going to have to change when your kids are going to college, different questions that you have to ask, but that might not be in the forefront. And that, to me, I'm not a parent, but that has to be scary.
It's very scary. And that's why, I've had a couple of people, oh, you're just in it for the money. Well, with all due respect, I have money, okay? It's about making change. And I've kind of put myself on a timetable here. My oldest is 14. She's pretty sharp. She's going to be going to college. And we need to figure this out, not just at USC, but globally. What are the new standards? When she goes in to go meet with some doctor, how is that supposed to go? What's the situation? If it doesn't go the way that it's supposed to, what should you see? Who should you report to? If they don't do something about it, what do I do next? All these things need to be put in place. And that's what we're going to do before this case is over.
And I want to kind of give you guys a heads up on that. That's something that was neglected on the USC campus. That there was a lot of our clients reporting to either the chaperone, the nurses, the front desk, and it just was being neglected.
Exactly.
So those procedures are very important, kind of a hierarchy on who to go next to where there's individuals that do not suffer from this sexual abuse. For sure. I want to move on to the next question that we have here. This is Jen. Jen is saying that I feel like I'm being harassed by a professor at my junior college, but I feel like I'm not going to be heard. What should I do? This is also, thank you so much, Jen, for your question. A lot of what we're already speaking about. They're not going to believe me. This is, will they hear me? What should I do? Is there procedures? This is kind of a little bit an open-ended question of what we're kind of already speaking. But generally, what should the answer be for Jen? I feel like I'm being harassed by a professor at my junior college, but I feel like I'm not going to be heard. What should I do?
Well, every institution is different, and I would certainly hope that because of some of these scandals that have occurred at Michigan State, USC, OSU, Penn State, I'm hoping that these schools, the other schools, are instituting policies for change. I also worked at Houston Community College, and the time when I worked at Houston Community College, they had counselors. I was a counselor there. But since my leaving Houston Community College, they've put in licensed professional counselors to address social emotional issues that are current. So I'm hoping that schools will have in place people that students can come to talk to, and that those talks will be held in confidence. But I would also encourage that student to also seek counsel outside of the institution. But I think they should check with their school to see what's available.
And with Jen's question, Ms. Attorney Miller, what is your suggestion? Do they go to a higher professional? Do they go to the cops? Do they go to the security? I mean, there's a lot of options that they could probably go, as well as a therapist. That could be one avenue as well.
Right.
What are your thoughts?
It's a very fact-specific question. I think Ms. Clay covered a lot of those initial options. Speak up. Go to the campus, get some assistance, get your family involved. Depending on the nature of what the situation is, that's something that I'd be glad to speak with someone to after hours or later on when we're more comfortable to get some more specific information so I could give a better strategy with regards to how to handle this.
Yeah, and I know even if you feel like you don't want to be disclosed, please, whoever you let know of your story, just let them know that you want to be anonymous. There is regulations on the professionals that are on this panel right now that have to abide by that you are anonymous. But if you do go outside of the either legal world or the therapist world and you go to a professor, please make sure you let them know if you do want your name not to be disclosed.
Now I'd like to interject. There is in the licensed professional realm that if there is a harm to self or harm to others or possibly some harm, then there is an obligation to report. I want to interject that.
Yeah, definitely. So we want to ensure that this doesn't happen, hopefully the assault, but if so, the higher professionals are in a platform to where they have to make that assessment. Perfect. So we're kind of getting close to the end of the show.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure we could probably talk for another hour and a half because this is so passionate, and all three of our hearts here on the panel, as well as D. Miller & Associates, Pearson Scribonic as well, Admore Behavioral Therapy. We do have 5 attorneys here. All 5 of them are just as passionate as what you see today at Talk to Me Tuesday, as well as the ones on Pearson Scribonic and the local council in Orange County as well. So if you guys had to leave our viewers with any advice or closing statements, because we do have to wrap up the show, what would you say to those that are listening to that either have been a victim of sexual assault, sexual abuse, sexual violence, or sexual misconduct, or have a family member or friend that has been a victim of that?
I would say don't remain silent. Speak up. Go to someone that you trust. If it's a family member that you trust, find someone that you can trust who will not be judgmental, who will listen and who will give you good sound counsel, who will hopefully direct you to another source that will be able to provide the help for you. But don't remain silent, because remaining silent allows you to remain a victim, and you don't want to be a victim.
Yes, that's good advice. And if those of you guys that are listening are those that someone is coming to you, like Ms. Clay said earlier, refer the judgment, just listen and be that person to empower them to not be a victim anymore. Attorney Darren Miller, what would you leave our audience with? Any closing statements or even advice that you would give to those viewers?
Viewers, don't be ashamed. Speak up for yourselves. Stand up. Be proud. In 99.9% of these cases, it's not you that's made the mistaken judgment or the mistake in the error. Report it to somebody. Get help. And those lawyers that get involved in cases like this, listen to your clients. Get involved and figure out what do we need to do to promote institutional change, to fix these problems, to leave situations better than we found them, to make the situation safer for future generations. That is our obligation. That is the reason why we've been licensed, to protect people and make situations better as we move forward. And that's what we are going to do.
Those are very powerful statements, closing statements as that. What I would like to say is let's all come together as a community, as a state, as a country, to make this movement nationwide for the victims that have suffered from sexual assault, sexual abuse, sexual violence, and sexual misconduct. We can make a difference. There's a lot of issues out there right now. This is not just one of them. But if we stand united as a nation, we can make a difference. That's my closing statement. I want to thank all of you guys. I also want to thank my panel for being here. Thank you so much. It was such a good show. If you guys want to see another one of this, I think we can probably, again, talk on another show. I want to thank all my viewers out there for watching the show, Talk to Me Tuesday, and for sharing it. The more you share, the more of a difference that we can make as a community, as a nation. So again, thank you so much for tuning in to Talk to Me Tuesday on a Tuesday. Till next time.
Thank you.